Have you ever clicked on a sponsored article that just looks like the news? Most probably these were Outbrain or Taboola ads, and you as a marketer or brand owner, you can use this. This is called native advertising, and native advertising are ads totally under the radar, and therefore it's extremely interesting, especially if you're selling your products online. In this video, I will explain you exactly what is Taboola, what opportunities you have, for whom are Taboola ads a great fit, and who should avoid Taboola ads, and how much money you need. We will also add a hands-on tutorial how you actually create your account and your first ad. Plus, I will show you exactly the differences between a self-service account and a managed account. So stay tuned and watch this video carefully. Hi everyone, my name is Marcel Sattler. I'm the founder of nativeadvertising.net, your platform about nothing but native ads. We are an exclusive native advertising only agency, so we are aware of all the tips and tricks around native ads, and we are also a platform where you can learn native advertising. And I have some good news and some bad news. Native ads, and this is the bad news, native ads is more complex, more complicated than all the other platforms out there. And maybe you have seen it already. You're unable to find a lot of content out there, you know? I mean, you're here already on the largest channel on YouTube about native ads. Thank you, by the way, to my community for that. And this is almost the one and only resource you can get here for free. Let's speak about Taboola. What actually is Taboola? So Taboola is one of the largest native advertising networks you can find out there. If you're in online marketing, you're familiar with Meta ads for sure, or Google ads. And when we speak about Meta or Google, we always speak about one dedicated company in the background. So for example, Meta with Facebook and Instagram, or Google with YouTube, Google ads, whatever. And when we speak about native, it's more a general term. It's not one dedicated platforms, but you have hundreds of native advertising platforms out there. A few ones are bigger, a few ones are smaller, and Taboola is definitely one of the bigger ones, if not even the biggest traffic source out there. And you can reach a lot of people because Taboola ads is basically the open internet. So you don't have an account as a Taboola. You know, it's not like with Instagram where you're logged in with your user account. That's not the case. But on a lot of news websites like Fox News, BBC, NBC, whatever, there are native ads embedded. You can always see them at the end of an article if you scroll down. And this is something which Taboola calls the moment of next, because the reader usually still has some time to continue reading, and that's the moment when he or she decides to click on the next article. And maybe it's also a native ad here. So this is Taboola. As mentioned, it's one of the largest native advertising networks, and you can reach up to 600 million people every single day. So you see already the opportunity here is huge. Before we dig in more here, let's just roughly speak 1 minute about native advertising. So native advertising, as mentioned before, you can see usually at the end of some articles, there is no dedicated company also in the background. So it's kind of an open source model here. To have a good analogy, and it's also like moment of next or recommended for you, or these articles might be interesting for you. You know, usually it's kind of a grid at the end of an article, and you select actively what you want to read next. So the main difference here is if you like to compare it with an Instagram ad, for example, in your Instagram stories, you click continue, and one thing is actually an ad. And you see it's an ad, you know, it's like looks different, even though it's a UGC ad or so. This is Instagram or YouTube, you see also when it's an ad. On native, you don't actually see it if you're not in this niche or scene, if you're not an online marketer. The majority of people don't even see it. They're like, if I'm born between X and Y, this knee patch might be interesting for me. Let's see why, because anyway, I have knee issues. So that's the huge difference. People actively kind of opting in or click into an ad to read more about it, because the main idea here is in the ad to capture attention and curiosity. And if you're wondering now how you can set up this kind of ads, through one network, like for example, Taboola. So Taboola also has something which is called an ads manager, where you log in and where you can upload your assets, your URL, but we will dig into this a bit later in this video, where we'll also actually share my screen and where we will set up everything. But yeah, you can purchase there some kind of place, some ads, and then you get reach or clicks or whatever. So the base model in the background, like on every platform out there, is a CPM, a cost per mil. But of course, Taboola shows you different options of how much you actually pay. Show you the CPC, CPM, or whatever KPI might be relevant for you. Generally speaking, native ads is a scaling channel, and you will hear this maybe a bit more often in this video from me, because it's very important to understand that native ads make sense if you want to scale. So if you already have an ad spend of 2,000 to 3,000 USD per day on a platform like Meta, then usually native is the next logical step to scale your brand successfully. The majority of ads out there is for health, beauty, finance, like these kind of ads, where you see before and after images, weight loss. These are a lot of ads out there because it actually works. And here it's also important to understand the audience of native ads. And I like to compare it with TikTok because it's exactly the opposite. On TikTok, you have a very fast, very young audience. On the native, you have it's a bit of a slower model here. It's like the audience is older, it's more mature. We speak here around people of 40 plus until almost 100 years old. So you reach out to a more mature audience. That means also the products need to be a good fit for this kind of audience. So if you sell something for a very young audience, native is not the right channel for you. But if you sell something which is something for a more mature audience, then native is a great fit. By the way, also if you have something in lead gen or so, everything around the house, whatever. So these people usually, they're the house owners, and so you want to reach out to. So this is your audience. You can find them on native. So let's speak also about the funnel, because the funnel usually is different in comparison to Meta, for example, or to YouTube or to Google or whatever. Because usually on a majority of platforms out there, you do have your ad and then you have the sales page or lead gen form page, whatever. With native, it's actually a bit different. You also have your ad on native and then you send people to an editorial or advertorial. So this page actually is your page. You host the page, you create the page, whatever, but you also create the copy and everything. The main idea here is that people read newspapers, so they want to continue reading newspaper. That means you send the traffic to your own website, which looks actually like a newspaper article. And on this newspaper page, which is actually your page, you guide people psychologically through it, because native is totally cold traffic. So you need to warm up the traffic through your advertorial. So you need to explain that they have a problem, need to show understanding for the problem. So there's a process which will be a bit too much for this video. But the main idea here is to warm up a completely cold audience, because we have one goal at the end of the advertorial, which is, again, it's your landing page. You need to host it, you need to create a copy, you need to create the web design, everything, but it should look like a newspaper article in an idle case. That's the best practice. And we want that people read the article, and at the end of the article, they decide, I'm not the audience, I actually don't need this product, or, oh yeah, I need this product right now. I want to have it. There's enough FOMO inside that I will take out my credit card and purchase it right now. And then afterwards, the next page actually is the actual sales page, which might be a Shopify page, lead gen form, whatever. But you see, the approach here is different. You do have this page in between, and this advertorial page in between is necessary. Because when we speak about native ads, we speak about top of the funnel. The traffic is cold. You have basically no targeting here. That means you don't have all this crazy interest-based targeting, smart pixel advanced technology. You don't have it. Native ads is like Facebook 2012 or whatever, when the Power Manager, or how it was called back then, was still existing. So that's the case with native. You can, of course, you have some demographics which you can target and narrow down the traffic. But at the end of the day, you can just target the country, the device, like if you want to target a mobile device or whatever, but we will take a look on this later. And on some platforms, you do also have something which is called the interest-based targeting. But to be honest, I haven't seen any scalable case where this actually worked pretty well. So you go broad. You go really broad, because you also don't have such a smart pixel or algorithm in the background. These platforms are way smaller than Google or Meta, so they don't invest that money in AI and all this crazy stuff. That means it's a lot of manual work for you as a media buyer, which also means at the end of the day, you don't have this smart outreach. So you go broad, the approach is very broad, and also very top of the funnel. Then you send the traffic to your landing page, to your advertorial. There you heat up the traffic and basically qualify the traffic. By the way, the missing targeting is also the reason why you always see, or not always, but in very often, why you see very often, if you're born between X and Y, some ads like this, because your ad is basically kind of the targeting, you know. In your ad, you have two things which you can actually manage in the majority of cases. It's the picture, the thumbnail, and the headline. And here, in idle case, you can target people already. If you're born between X and Y, dog owners, pay attention. This knee patches or these shoes are taking you as by storm. If you have back pain, check out this. Experts warn if you have hair loss, whatever, you know, like you try to put the relevant kind of keyword, even though no one is looking for it, but you try to put a trigger word actually in the headline to catch people's attention. That's the main goal here, to ensure that people who might be qualified click on the ad to be qualified or to get qualified while reading the advertorial. As mentioned before, the audience is slightly older than on the other platforms, which means in the majority of cases also that they have more money to spend. So the average order value is higher compared to other platforms, like for example Instagram, which is actually a good thing for you if you're, for example, in e-commerce, because you can sell higher packages. You can sell more expensive products to them. So if you sell something around $80, $90 on cold traffic, usually not a problem when it comes to Taboola ads. Let's speak about budget, money, and investment. And this is definitely the downside of native. As mentioned before, native is a scaling channel. So if you're an affiliate with $50 daily budget, I can personally not recommend you native. I can recommend you native if you're a brand or if you're a professional affiliate, whatever, and you do spend already 2, 3, 4,000 or more on other platforms on a daily basis, then native is the next step to scale profitably to 20, 30K per day. So this is native. Native is a great scaling channel. This is very important to keep in mind. We see, or we also have clients which spans like 30, 40, up to 50,000 US dollar per day profitable with native. And this is not a one-hit wonder, you know, this is not a one accidental case. This is something which is pretty common when it comes to native. Also, like daily ad spends of 10 to 20K are medium-sized ad spends here per day when it comes to native ads or Taboola ads here. So this is very important to keep in mind. So whenever you want to scale, then native is your next way, your next step to go. From a daily budget or from a monthly budget, you need at least 10 grand per month. Everything less, to be honest, doesn't make sense. If you have less money, if you have like 5, 6 grand, my recommendation is invest it in another platform. Do not go with native. Doesn't matter if it's Taboola or another platform. That's just my personal recommendation out there. I know a lot of people see differently, but I never saw a case where someone just invested like $50, $60 per day and went crazy profitable, crazy rich, or made some continuously successful campaigns. Never the case. So let's be realistic. You need around 10 grand per month to make native ads work. And don't worry, it will not work from the first day. Native ads is not a platform for first day results. You need patience and you need money to make it work actually. That means if you need quick results tomorrow, native is not your platform. It's like a big container ship, you know? When a big container ship is going outside of the harbor, it takes a while until this big vessel has 20 knots. But as soon as this big ship has 20 knots, it has a huge momentum. It also takes miles to stop. And here it's the same. Native takes a while. It takes, to be honest, 4 to 8 weeks to get profitable, to get scalable. That's the time you need if you start from scratch. But as soon as this happens, you have a huge momentum and it's almost impossible to stop this momentum, which is a positive thing. So as soon as you have as soon as you have higher spendings and as soon as you have a great profit, you're getting better results. That's the positive thing. And you have very stable results. So you don't have this kind of roller coaster, which you have sometimes with other platforms. It's a constant growth, a very stable growth. That doesn't mean that you don't have some up and downs. Of course you have them. But you don't have like from this today, tomorrow to this, and again, this kind of roller coaster. This is something you don't have when it comes to native if you do it correctly. And now you might also wonder, okay, when we speak already about money, What are the CPC, CPMs? So this is a bit hard for me to answer right now in this general video because it depends. It's like this most stupid answer, but this is the honest answer here. It depends. It depends on so many circumstances. You have, for example, different types of devices. You can run on mobile devices, smartphones, tablets, and desktop devices. So a smartphone has a way cheaper CPC than a desktop device. Of course, there's also way more smartphone traffic, but sometimes, or the rule of thumb is desktop devices might convert sometimes better. Also between smartphones, there's a difference between Android and iOS. An Android phone is cheaper or gets cheaper clicks than an iOS device. So it depends on many circumstances. Also the countries, if you run in a tier 1 country like US, it's way more expensive than if you run on another country like a tier 2 or tier 3 country like Spain or France or Greece. So this depends. But generally speaking, the CPMs, the cost per mil, the money you need to reach out to 1,000 people out there is usually cheaper compared to other platforms like Meta, YouTube, Google, whatever. So the CPMs are cheaper. But to be honest, I'm not a huge fan to look at CPC CPMs because at the end of the day, I'm just curious about how much money do you need for one conversion. And here we also do see, in the majority of cases, I would like to say in 8 out of 10 cases, we see better results on native, especially on a scale, compared with other platforms. So usually the conversions are cheaper on native, not just the CPCs and CPMs. About all the other things, like how to do the tracking setup, and so this is something we will speak about when we are on my screen, where I can show you exactly how to set up everything. But before we go there, I want to speak about the account structure when it comes to Taboola. And Taboola offers you basically 2 kinds of accounts. It's a self-service account. This is the account which we will create later together on my screen. And it's a managed account. A managed account is the premium option. And if you take native seriously, you should always go with the managed account. The reason here behind is a managed account comes usually with a rep, so with someone from Taboola who actually can help you to scale your campaign, can help you with the setup, with everything, with the tracking, whatever. So they do have their experts in the background, and they can also help you to scale with some best practices. They can give you some average numbers, which is relevant for you to compare your ads in comparison with your competitions, etc. But you need to sign something which is called an IO, and you need around 10 grand per month as an agreement to invest in native ads. So if you have less money, or if you don't want to invest this money from the very beginning, then it's almost impossible to get a managed account. And the managed account has one big positive impact on your campaigns. So if you start a native advertising campaign on Taboola, you don't just have these premium publishers. You get every publisher, And it's like a very, very big sea. And you have a huge sea of crazy publishers. Some of them are very high premium. Some of them are, to be honest, garbage. So you also have something which is called push traffic. Push traffic are traffic sources or publishers, which are basically, if you play like a free game on your phone, and it's like, okay, to continue your game, you need to click here. And then you actually are looking for the X to close it. And then you have a bit too fatty fingers, like I sometimes. And then you click actually on the ad, and then you're coming to a website. And this is called push traffic. And this push traffic is usually worthless. Yes, the clicks are almost free. They cost a few cents, but you don't really want to have these clicks because it's no actual point to have something like this click on your landing page or whatever. So you want to avoid this. And there's something which is called block list, which actually blocks all this push traffic. But for this, you need a managed account. It's not possible to use this block list without a managed account. Of course, you can do this manually, but this is going to be crazy, impossible. So if you take native ads seriously, Taboola ads seriously, then go with the managed account. All right, so now it's the time where we actually jump on my screen and set up a Taboola account and also start our first campaign together. Before we're gonna start, a little information. Taboola is currently in a transition period. So since February 2025, Taboola introduced Realize. Realize is the new platform. Also, when you log in already, it's the Realize URL, the Realize ads manager. So everything is called Realize now, and it will go beyond even native advertising. So it will be able to also advertise on other platforms like, for example, email. So you will have in the future way more options. But for this video here, we will focus on native ads exclusively. However, if you want to read what exactly Realize will do for you in the future, feel free to read this article. It's a normal press article on the Taboola website. But now we are going to sign up for a Taboola self-service account. For this, just go to taboola.com and click Get Started. Then you will see a website which looks a bit like this. And what I'm going to do here is I will put my email inside, my first name and my last name, the country, the website, company name, the monthly investment, and I need to agree to the T&Cs, and this one here is optional. So I'm just gonna do this quickly. All right, as soon as you click here the create account button, you will see here the little loading bar, and next step is already to check your inbox, because you received now an email to the email address you set up here, and you need to confirm this email address. So that's the email you will receive here, and just click this button here, create your first campaign. I will just do it here manually quickly. And now your email is verified, and now you have, for the two-step verification, for two-factor authentication, you have different methods. You can use your email, you can use an SMS, or the app if you use Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, or something like 1Password or Apple Passwords. In this case, I just select email because it's the fastest one. Just click save here, and then you're already logged in your Realize account. And the first thing we're gonna do is we open the sidebar a bit to read it, and you can click here admin, and please select billing and payments, because the first thing we need to set up is actually a credit card for this self-service account. So you can see here there's already a warning too, that funds are not available, obviously because we haven't set up any credit card yet. So please set up here a credit card. It's super simple. Just put a credit card on file. And you just need to type in the credit card, can be also a debit card, and your billing address. It's a normal payment through Stripe. You see here, there's also, of course, a payment fee of 3.5%. I also did this now in the meantime, and you see here there's a credit card on file, and be aware sometimes it takes a while until this banner here disappears, and you can just click back to campaigns. Another very important thing you need to set up is the tracking. Here on the left side you see the tracking, and unfortunately I'm not able to cover the tracking here in this video because there are so many options you need to take care of when it comes to the tracking. However, you do have very different methods for the tracking. You can use the Google Tag Manager, which is pretty simple, I would like to say. You can set it up manually, you can use a server-to-server, or the Shopify integration. If you use something like a tracker, for example, volume, Cloudflare, use the server-to-server method. We, for example, in our agency also use the server-to-server method because it's the most reliable tracking method here. And yeah, it's the most safest one, and you need to track everything, like the whole funnel. You need to track the advertorial, the view content. You can set up new events here. I'm just gonna create here quickly an event. You can create view content, add to cart, start checkout, add payment, make purchase, view and lead gen, complete registration, lead. So you can set up all these things. Always just be aware if you set up a conversion here. Taboola always likes to pre-select those two checkboxes, the total conversions and the total value. Deselect them if it's not really the final purchase conversion, for example. The reason here is you don't want that the view content event, for example, is a total conversion. So that would mean whenever someone clicks on your ad and this view content event fires, that you have a conversion, which is actually wrong. So deselect it and just keep it activated for the final conversion, please. But again, this would be an overkill, overload for this video here. But if you're interested in a separate tracking video, write it down in the comments below. But now let's go back to the campaigns. And before we can start to set up a campaign, you need a bit of preparation. And I prepared, of course, already a few things. So you need a tracking link. You need to know where you're going to send the traffic. Is it a volume link? Is it a Cloudflare link? Is it an advertorial you've created in WordPress, Funnelish, whatever, Webflow, whatever? So you need this link here. Then you need headlines. I recommend you 3 headlines. By the way, this is a test campaign. This is not an actual client campaign or so. So these things you see here, they sometimes doesn't make sense. This is just for this video purpose here. So you need 3 headlines and 3 images. This is my personal recommendation here. Of course, you can use more, but with a smaller budget, it doesn't make sense. So my recommendation, 3 images, 3 headlines, and Taboola will mix them up together. So you have 9 ads because 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. So you're gonna have 9 ads in the beginning, and that's fair enough for the Taboola algorithm to learn and also to see results on smaller budgets. You can use up to 100 characters. However, I can recommend you to use 60 or less, because with 60 or less, you can ensure that your headline is everywhere visible. If you have like 80 or 90 characters, it might not be visible on every publisher here. Description, can create 1 description for this campaign. Stay also here under 250 words. And of course, when you create the headline and the description, be aware that Taboola also has a policy. The policy is usually way easier to understand than meta policy and grid policy, but of course there's a policy. So basically you are not allowed to say, if you're fat, you need my product to lose 8 pounds in 2 hours. So this is of course a bit exaggerated now, but you get the idea. And I've also created 3 images here for our test campaign with 1200 by 800 pixel. So with this preparation, we have everything we need to set up our campaign. And for this, we switch back to the Realize platform and just hit the plus new button here and then choose campaign. And here, first thing is you need to set up a campaign name. And I can recommend you to set up, or this is my structure at least, the year, a hyphen, the month, a hyphen, and the day. Then I like to use the country, for example, US. Then I like to use the device type, in my case, mobile. In this case, it will be an iOS campaign, and I will give it a name. For example, start campaign, scale campaign, test campaign, whatever. Then you can choose the brand name. So whenever you use an advertorial, and my recommendation is please use an advertorial if it's not a retargeting campaign. But if it's a prospecting campaign, use an advertorial, please. And use here the name, the brand name of the advertorial. Don't use the brand name of your Shopify store or whatever, of your brand actually. Use the brand name of the advertorial. So in my case, it's my happy gut. And here you need to select a marketing objective. And there are just 2 options I can recommend you. Either you're in lead gen, then select lead generation. And if you're in e-com, choose online purchases, please. And here for the conversion goal, you can select the account default. Therefore, it's important what I told you before to be aware that you really just use the conversions to this checkbox thing, that this is set up correctly. Then you can select a time frame. You can, for example, specify a start and end date. So, for example, from tomorrow until, for example, for just 1 week, this campaign should run because it's a promo or it's something special, whatever. Or I will spend all my money here from the Taboola ads and I will not be able to access internet, whatever. So you can specify it here. And then you can select the days and hours when you want to run your ads. And pre-selected is 24/7. I cannot recommend you 24/7. I always like to set specific days and hours. And the reason here is simple, because the quality of traffic in the middle of the night, let's say 2 a.m. is not crazy well, it's not crazy good. So you don't want this kind of traffic. You don't want to spend money actually in 2 a.m. in the morning. People who are active there, they usually don't purchase your product or service. So I know there are some exceptions, but this is the rule of thumb here. So my recommendation is select all days here and run your ads from 7 to 11 p.m. Here you also see the time zone, and this time here, of course, is for this time zone. You can change the time zone here if you want, but in my case, it's the default time zone. And here you can narrow down now the targeting. You can select the country. In my case, it's United States. And of course, you can narrow it down more of just a region or state, city, postal code area, zip code area, whatever. don't narrow it down too much in the beginning. People actually like to narrow it down way too much. It's still native. Go broad. And here you need to select a platform. You see you have 3 platforms, and what they did pretty well, if you select both of them, you get an error message. So the best practice is always to separate desktop and mobile devices. Why so? Because they have different bits, and you will mess up your campaign if you put every device basically together. So always separate desktop and mobile. You can put mobile and tablet, for example, in one campaign, that's fine, but never desktop with tablet or desktop with mobile. I cannot recommend this. Always run a separate campaign for desktop, separate campaign for mobile. And again, you can combine those two if you want, but I even recommend you to separate everything and to split everything. I even go one step further, and my personal recommendation here is even to split mobile devices into 2 different operating systems, because there are different bits in the background. You know, an iOS bit costs more than an Android bit, and I want to see very precisely where I get better conversions. So we select here also mobile, and then we select the operating system. As mentioned before, I'm going to use iOS only. And here you have the Wi-Fi only connection type. So I like to activate it because I have an advertorial and I want that people actually have time to read the advertorial here in the background. So I'm going to activate the Wi-Fi only option. In this case, with this targeting now, it says basically, we target people in the US, in the entire country, with a mobile device which has an iOS operating system and which is connected to any Wi-Fi. That's the targeting here. And this is my best practice. We will also set up later an Android campaign, so we'll basically just duplicate this campaign, but best practice is always to set it up and split it then afterwards. You can narrow it down more by choosing or selecting a browser, for example. Don't do this, please. You can use this afterwards when you receive a lot of KPIs and you see, okay, for example, Edge or iOS WebView works awesome for you. Then narrow it down with this, but don't go too narrow down in the very beginning. You can also use the targeting options, but keep in mind, Taboola or native ads in general is the open web. You don't have a user account like you have it on Instagram or on YouTube or so. So this targeting is not that precisely as you're used to with on other platforms. So don't select it, basically. This is my recommendation. And I've never seen anyone with a great success scaling up with contextual targeting here. It's always a broad targeting. And by the way, this just works okay-ish in the US. Everything besides the US, it's not going to work pretty nice. And Taboola also bought some external audiences, which you can also select here. But my recommendation is, again, don't even use it. It will be a waste of time and waste of money. And you can also use your own audience, for example, for retargeting, or you can also exclude people who already purchased your product. And this actually makes sense. Just click next, please. And now it comes to the budget. But first, we speak about the bidding. And here at the bidding, you have multiple options. You can run a max conversion campaign or a manual campaign or semi-manual campaign. A manual campaign would be bid control with a fixed CPC. So basically, you tell Taboola how much you want to pay for your bid. And yeah, this baseline is fixed and not optimized. This is the last thing I can recommend you, especially in the beginning. Second last thing I can recommend you is enhanced CPC. This is kind of a semi-automatic campaign. Don't do this in the beginning. Do this when you're more advanced. Do this when you spend more than 100 grand in the beginning. Select max conversions. That's the Taboola algorithm, which is in the beginning always smarter than you. Let's be real. That's the case. Native is complicated, and you're unable to outperform the Taboola algorithm in the beginning. Then you need to set a daily budget. And here I can recommend you, if you run in the US, to set at least $250 to $300 per day to win also some auctions. Because at the end of the day, it's an auction and a bidding system. And you need to win auctions and biddings. And the US, for example, and this campaign is a US campaign, is the most competitive market for native ads. That means in order to win also some actual auctions, you need money. So it's not going to work if you just want to spend 80 or 90 bucks, you know, that's not the case. So you need to go a bit higher here with the budget already. Of course, it depends from country to country, but here I'm speaking precisely about the US, and here you need around $250 to $300 a day. And you see already it starts to get pricey, because when we duplicate a campaign with an iOS campaign and Android campaign, it's already 600. And let's just say we would also like to add a desktop campaign, that's already 900 USD per day, which is basically the bare minimum here. But in this case, it's fair enough to start with 300. And we will do the same later with the Android campaign with the same budget. You need to set up a monthly budget, and of course you can also spend here monthly, directly, or lifetime, whatever, but I like to use the daily budget. And here you can set up the spending limit. You can select, for example, $1,200 here, but then your campaign after $1,200 will just stop to spend money. So here I will just set up 10K, and with this I'm safe. Then you have the optimization, and there is the optimized ad optimization and the A/B testing. In the beginning, please always go with the optimized one, because here the algorithm will understand what's the smartest option to serve your ads. With an A/B testing, as it's written here also, all ads will receive equal opportunities across the network. So by allocating impressions more evenly than optimized, regardless the performance. So basically you will have at the end of the day, or at the end of the split test of the A/B test, you will see exactly the performance of everything, but it's not optimized. It's just straight 50% of the traffic here, 50% of the traffic there. Then you have all the KPIs and you can decide by yourself. Go in the beginning with optimized. It's always the cheaper and smarter option here. There's also a spend guard activated. This is per default. Keep this activated. This is something like an automated algorithm, as it's written here, but this is not a safety net. Don't think just because this spend guard is active, you don't need to log in for a week in your Taboola account, especially in the beginning. That's not the case. So this spend guard will not save your money from any misspending or whatever. All right, I will skip here this bid adjustments, and then there's something which is called custom rules. So you can set up rules here in the rules section. I'm not gonna show this in this video because it's more advanced, and I can create a own video about this because it can be pretty complicated, but you can set up some spending rules here, if this, then that, something like this, you know. Here you need to paste the tracking code. If you use a tracker like Volume or so, basically you can also use your UTM tracking, which is per default here already inside. Even though, again, as mentioned before, I can always just recommend you a server-to-server tracking with a tracker, with a middleware, because this ensures actually that you receive the conversions correctly. Because, of course, some people, they're like, I have UTMs, I'm fine. But, you know, what they usually try to ignore is the fact that devices like Apple devices, iOS devices, they delete the UTMs, especially if this privacy protection is activated. Also, if someone uses ad blocker, their UTMs are sometimes just deleted, so you're unable to track it with UTMs. Therefore, always use a tracker, and this tracking code is something you will implement here. And then we are done with the basic campaign settings. As you can see here, the campaign itself is successfully created. But now we're gonna start the creative part, which are the actual ads. And here you just need to reload. It's a little bug here. And here just click next, and then you see the create ads part already. And here you see we create an ad for this campaign, which is selected. Here on the left-hand side, you do the work. Here on the right-hand side, you will have a preview as soon as we select something. And first of all, for the native ad format, I can always recommend you a standard and not a carousel. Second of all, you can skip these things here. They are optional, but you need to type in a landing page. And I will type in google.com. Of course, it's not my landing page, but for the sake of the video here, I will type in google.com. And then you can either upload your own images, which we will do later. You can generate pictures by AI, for example, with text to image or image to image. And this works pretty well. So Taboola did an awesome job here. And the good news is it's totally free. So feel free to use the AI generated function here. I'm pretty happy with this. It works awesome. It's everything about your prompt as everywhere. So the better your prompt is, the better the result will be. Again, text to image, image to image, totally for free. Feel free to use it. And you can use stock media, which I would not recommend to you. So either upload something by yourself, which you create in Canva or Photoshop, or use the AI generated image stuff here. And of course, you can also upload not just images, but you can also upload, for example, videos. But I would not recommend this for you because videos or MP4 and motion files, whatever, it can be an MP4, MOV file, or also a GIF. So these kind of motion ads, they're not visible on every publisher. So you narrow down your fields of publisher with this automatically. And in the beginning, I cannot recommend this. If you do have a lot of motion content, separate a campaign or start a separate campaign with this. So that means start a campaign with static images and set up a separate campaign with motion images. That's the best practice here. So let's upload our prepared images here. And this will now take a second here. Voila, they're here. And yeah, then let's switch to the headlines and to the content itself. Here, just going to copy and paste what I already have. And before I move forward here, a few informations. As you can see here now, I have 36 out of 100 potential or possible characters. And if I go over 60, you see already there's an error message. Headlines over 60 characters might not be completely visible on some publishers. So therefore, always try to be under 60 characters, please. That's the first thing. The second thing is Taboola also has here a rephrase tool, which is an AI tool. And this works also pretty well, so feel free to use it, especially if you're not used with creating headlines. And what I like here a lot is Taboola has the function of dynamic headlines. And the dynamic headline is something you can see here. Here you have a dynamic placeholder, which is the city. So whenever or in whatever city you are, it's visible here when you see the ad. So for example, if you're in LA, it's like Los Angeles, simple gut fix. If you're in New York, it's like New York, simple gut fix. Same for the region, for the state. If you're in Alabama, it's like Alabama, easy 45 seconds. If you're in, you get the idea, in New Mexico, it's New Mexico. So there are a few dynamic headline parameters, like for the city, like the region, but also the day, for example, is a dynamic placeholder which you can use here, which I actually like a lot. So also feel free to use this one here. In this case now for this video, I've created already some headlines in my preparation, so I don't need this, but again, it's a great tool, use it. Then I have my description. Again, this should be less than 250 characters. Also, we have here 139. And then you can use the CTA button. You have a bunch of CTA buttons, like also very pushy ones like order now. And so pre-order now, I cannot recommend you this. I would always recommend you something soft, like learn more, click here, read more, something like this. Don't use something too pushy here. All right, now we need to select the actual image here, and then you have a crop tool because there are different sizes, always different crops for everything. Just use this drag and drop generator here, and so let's select the next one, and let's select the last one. And with this, we already have 9 ads. And here you also see they do recommend some ad motion, but as mentioned before, always try to split this in a separate campaign, and they have diversification with variations. So they do a pretty good job with AI here already, as you can see. In this case, we will keep it simple. And here on the right side, you see now the preview of your 9 ads we've just created. So you see here the image, you see here the headline, you see the description, and you see the button. And this is the brand name we have typed in before, if you remember, in the first step. And I like it. We can just submit it. And now you need to wait a second. By the way, the Taboola backend might be a bit slow sometimes. It's pretty normal. It's not your internet. And then you see already here, the ads are in pending preview. We'll switch back to campaigns, select all campaigns, and also the campaign is in preview. So this will take now 1 to 2 work days after. And afterwards you will receive an email. Either you receive an email with, hey, congratulations, everything's approved, or you will receive an email with, it's partly approved, so that means they might approve 1 or 2 ads, but not all of them, or you will receive an email with everything is rejected. However you see if something or everything is rejected, you also see the reason of the rejection here inside the ads. So just go in, hover over with your mouse, and then you will see exactly what's the actual reason of the rejection, and you can fix it. And also Taboola has a great chat here, the help chat, where you can write some messages and ask you questions, what you need to change. They are super responsive here, and yeah, they're happy to help here. As mentioned before, we've set up now the iOS campaign. I'm going to duplicate this campaign now because I want to set up, and this is the best practice, now my separate campaign with Android. And for this, I just go down here, delete iOS, select Android, and the rest I keep exactly the same. The budget, the ads, everything is the same. I just hit the duplicate button, and now I see I have two campaigns. Both are in review, in pending review right now. Both are with 300 USD daily budget. Yeah, and now you just need to wait until everything gets approved. So this was now superficial. As you can see here, you do have way more options, and now we just set up the campaign. We didn't optimize it or so, and there are way more things you need to take care of. And for this, we've created the Taboola ads cheat sheet, which you can see here now. And yeah, this shows you everything, all the strategies from the past 10 years and millions of ad spend, how to launch, optimize, and scale your Taboola ads fast. And you can see here everything like the structure, best practice for ads, what's the calculation. There are also more samples. So this is definitely worth it if you take native ads seriously and if you take Taboola ads seriously. You can download it. It's $97 and it's definitely worth it. So let's put everything together. It was a lot already, I'm aware of this. So let's put the things together. Let's summarize it a bit. If you are a brand or an affiliate who is already successful on a platform like, for example, Meta or Google, and you spend 2 to 3 grand per day, then native definitely makes sense as your next step to scale profitably. Native also makes sense if your audience is older and if you have a very broad product approach. If you're in B2B, if you have a very narrowed down audience, and if you don't have so much money, then I cannot recommend you native, to be honest. Then better go with another platform. As mentioned before, native, and this is the positive thing, is a scaling channel. So we manage accounts with 30, 40, 50K per day profitable ad spend. However, to start native, you need more money compared with every other platform. And it also takes 4 to 8 weeks until you see great results and profitability. That means native is not a platform for fantastic first day results. So it takes a while, you need patience and you need money. Another downside is native is complicated. So native is extremely complicated until you set up everything and until you connect all the dots together. And there is no real source out there which shows you how to do everything correctly because it depends on your actual use case. There is not one fits all solution. There are different tracking tools like Volume, Clicklflare, whatever. There are different platforms. So there's a bunch of things, and it's like a phone number. You need to dial every number correctly in order to reach me. That means if my phone number has 10 digits and you just take one number wrong, the result is you're not going to reach me. And here with native, it's the same. If you do one thing wrong, even though the rest is perfectly done, if you have one mistake inside your funnel or whatever, it's not going to work. That's the downside. But I also have good news. We have created something which is a Taboola cheat sheet for you. There, I put in all my knowledge from the past decade about Taboola ads. It shows you exactly what you need to start from scratch, what you need to scale your Taboola account. It's not free, it's $97, but it's definitely worth it. Most probably, if you really take Taboola ads seriously, most probably this will be your smartest investment because it shows you exactly the strategy and the things you need. And you need to spend money actually, and a lot of money, to realize these things which are written in this guide. So if you want to start with Taboola, get the guide, invest these $97 today. For this, just scan the QR code here or check out the show notes where we also add the link. And with this, we are already at the end of our video here. So thank you very much for watching here until the very end. And by the way, if you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe to my channel because here I upload twice a week a free video about native ads and everything you need to know about native to make a lot of profit with Taboola, Outbrain, MJD, Ref Content, all the other native advertising platforms. Have a good one. See you next time.